Welcome, Paul Cruikshank, to another episode of Paul Unscripted.
Morning, Kelly.
Morning. Same intro every week.
Yes.
Try to shake it up, but I'm just in a habit now. Paul, we've had a good couple of months now doing this, and I feel like we've been dancing around the elephant in the room for us at RCL Foods. I'm going to pose one question, and I'm going to hand it over to you.
Sure.
What the sugar is going on?
Sugar. Yeah. So we've in a difficult patch with sugar, and we've been here before. But we will still release our results. So I'll be a bit cagey about, I can't quote numbers until the results are released. But this is the second time that I've been involved in sugar when you get into a situation where an import tariff becomes ineffective. In other words, it's cheaper than the local price to import sugar, and some customers start importing sugar, and as a consequence, the sugar that's produced locally, and I'm talking industry here, not RCL Foods, we get affected to our proportion, will need to be exported, and the export price is always in inverted commas, other than once in 12 years that sugar has been part of our business, is below the local price, and therefore you get a significant change in your revenue, and your costs in sugar largely stay the same. So that's what's happening currently. The import tariff is not effective. What's also worth adding, Kelly, is that internationally, sugar industries are protected across all countries.
Okay.
So surplus supply on the world market gets dumped into countries in which it can enter. Most countries therefore protect their sugar industry as a consequence of that. And we are protected, but our protection levels are too low. All of that falls down straight into our results and is making our performance difficult. The one thing I just also want to add is, and this will become clear when our results are released, whilst it is falling, our sugar business is still performing quite well relative to its history.
Okay.
And that's important context, particularly for the people internally to understand.
Yeah.
We use the term, its profit is normalizing. What we've seen in the last couple of years is and we've been open about this in the market, so this is not a secret. All the investors and our shareholders understand that what we've had in the last few years, I'll call it record profits. And at some point it had to correct. But the industry in South Africa is in turmoil. It needs government intervention. It needs a better protection, a better tariff to protect it. And then our business is it's the best sugar business in the country by law.
So, I mean, a lot of people say this within the business and outside of the business, the sugar industry is so big that when it snivels, everyone gets sick.
Well, the numbers are huge. That's the problem.
Yeah. So
relative to the balance of our business, it's huge.
And I suppose for any of the other sugar businesses out there, it's huge.
Yeah. So look, I mean, there are only 3 or 4 other sugar businesses. Two of them were in business rescue. One is out now. The other one's still in business rescue, and that's also a very big player. And I can mention the name because it's no secret in Tongaat.
Yeah.
So they must be under massive pressure. I can only speculate. If we're feeling the heat, they'll be under huge pressure given their circumstances.
And what happens to, so I mean, beyond, if you put the numbers aside and the imports and the exports and all this, what does this mean for small scale growers?
It means significant risk to KZN's rural communities.
So just take us back, maybe unpack what a small scale grower is for people that are not in this industry.
Yeah, so there's kind of, I'm trying to describe it simply, but there's 2 versions of this. You get a community-based joint ventures, which is what we got, which is a cluster of community members which farm. Within that, or to the side of that, you can have what you call a small scale grower, which is literally a piece of land. It could be 2 to 5 hectares. Hectares, and someone will farm sugar, and once a year that sugar will be delivered to a mill. They get paid for that sugar based on an industry price, which is a standard price per ton of cane, and they'll get paid for that, and they need to reinvest a portion of that money into the next year's crop, which would either be through irrigation, fertilizer, weeding, and looking after that crop for the following year. That's simply how, and then you get big commercial growth. So you get sort of that, and then you get a fourth one, which is owned farms. The millers own their farms. So we have very small proportion of owned farms. It's a little bit different here in KZN.
Okay.
So that's how it fits together. So when imports come in and everybody gets less revenue, the small scale grower gets less revenue. And that's why I refer to the rural communities, particularly in KZN, will be affected. Ours as well, but particularly KZN will be significantly affected. So the risk is that you topple one or two or three big sugar players in South Africa over, and I referenced Tongaat Business Rescue, and then you got big trouble in those rural communities because their only livelihood is sugarcane to some of them. Sugarcane farming.
So I suppose, I keep saying that, I suppose. So am I correct in saying they are the worst affected, the small scale growers are the worst affected?
I think everybody's affected equally. I don't think it's no worse than any other farmer.
Okay.
But they have less means.
Okay.
And they might have less security to get them through the other side of the cycle. And as I said in the beginning, this is the second time I've seen it in 10 years. So it's sort of a cyclical business, which we understand.
So what do we need immediately? Not us as a business, but as a sugar industry, what do they need immediately?
We need a tariff that's effective, urgently. And I'm not even going to go into the complexity of this, but it's a dollar-based reference tariff. And as your currency strengthens, which the rand has, which is great for a lot of other commodities, it's bad for sugar. Your sugar you export, you get less money for, and your tariff protection comes down because it's times basically whatever the tariff is in dollars times by a smaller number. So we need a more effective tariff that actually stops imports coming in.
And is someone lobbying this at government level?
Yes, there's lots of lobbying happening through SASA. It's quite an effective industry body, and they are lobbying government, and individual companies will lobby government as well to try and get this tariff. It's a process as well.
Yes.
So RTEC and through the DTRC, they follow quite a strict process in which they. The obvious flip side is you get the customers, which could be industrial users of sugar. Let's call it that. You also get consumers on the retail pack side, but let's just call it the customers. They will want cheaper sugar. But and I'll be unpopular for saying this, but you need to look at the holistic effect of what sugar does in South Africa, in the farming community. And you've got to look at that holistically and say, how do you balance this thing off versus dumped sugar, which actually comes in through our ports.
So you think the customers will back you on this?
So look, we haven't seen a lot of imported sugar on the shelves.
Yeah.
There is some pushback from some of our industrial customers, which use it in big volume production, in terms of the tariff.
Yeah.
But if we were the only country, my argument would be if we're the only country in the world that was protecting our sugar industry, then we were ineffective in our sugar cost of production. That's not true. Other countries are protected, and they do it for what I explained earlier, that there's a surplus internationally that gets dumped.
If you had a crystal ball and you could look into the next 2 years, how do you see this playing out?
So if we get an effective tariff, our sugar business's profitability should recover. Mm-hmm. And hopefully those in KZN recover equally as well. The government is quite big on diversification of sugar, so to reduce its requirement to export sugar, which is a good initiative, but practically I'm not sure how possible it is. It requires quite big capital expenditure numbers to put these diversifications in, but it's dialogue we continue to have with government to look at opportunities for diversification of the surplus sugar. So you can call it add more value to that sugar and improve the income, which will flow all the way down to the farmers.
And other than, I keep saying this, other than putting the numbers aside, putting our profits aside, putting all that, how's the mood in sugar?
So I would say the mood is they understand this. Most of the sugar people have been in sugar for a while, so they understand it. They understand the complexity. They've seen the movie more than my 2 times, and probably seen it a few times. So look, what they're doing is rolling up their sleeves, focus, and our mantra is focus on what we can control, which means we go back into our costs and we make sure we're the sharpest from a cost perspective, and that's all we can do, and lobby.
Lobby.
So
we're supporting that lobby.
100%, yeah. No, big time. Through industry,
yes,
we play quite a significant role through our team that navigates the corridors of SASA.
So we're going to see the results come out. The interim results are going to come out in a couple of weeks. And so, I mean, we can't talk about that now. But you say your team are bracing for it now. And if they've seen the movie, I mean, the movie doesn't end badly. It's not a terrible ending.
No, we can only do what we can. I mean, we should, and we'll see where we get to at the end of the year, still put out a reasonable number for sugar, despite these headwinds, but it's a long way down from where it should be.
Okay.
So yeah, how quickly the tariff comes in and what level, that's the unknown.
That's very interesting. Thank you. And we'll be watching out to see how this movie unfolds.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thanks, Paul.
Cheers.